Alright guys, so welcome back to another video. So I'm not going to make these animations from scratch in this one because it's just too time consuming and it took about an hour for me to make them. So I'm not going to do that. I want to try to keep this short. I will explain to you what's going on here. I'll include this project in the description down below. So you'll have the sci-fi weapons dark off the marketplace. They're free. I couldn't find them for some reason. I don't know if they took them off for some reason or another. I don't know. But anyway, I couldn't find them, so I'm going to include them into this project. I have these poses set as steps so that they don't linearly interpolate every frame because they don't need to because they're single frame animations. It probably won't anyway because we will convert them to single frame animations, but I just wanted to point that out to you. So we have this base animation right here, and actually these feet shouldn't be angled, but they're angled, so hopefully that doesn't cause any problems. Also, these hands, I think that's probably going to be okay the way they're angled, but normally I think you have to angle them inwards towards the body to reduce the possibility of any issues. So I'll just go ahead and set these to looping. These animations that I made that are looping, I'll just go ahead and set that. Now you can change the rate. If you increase it to 2, it'll be faster. Just know that everything else is going to be faster too. So if you don't like that, then you can make them yourself or find some that you do like. Now it does look a little funny, but that's because I had the bottom legs. I was trying to keep from moving the legs as much as possible because I don't want any deltas on these legs. So that's the reason why I did those the way that I did them. So moving on, we're going to go into the animations folder and we're going to open up this ABP Mani. We're going to go to the Anim graph and drag this up here actually. And we're going to type in cache because we want to save this to a cache, and I'm just going to call it main. Now there is probably a little bit of memory that's involved in caching these, so just let that be known. As long as you don't do a lot, like 100 times or so, then the impact is going to be negligible. So it should be safe to do that. I'm going to go ahead and create a state machine. So I'm going to call this attack states, and I'm going to cache this as well. Press F2 if it's not letting you rename it, and then just type in attacks or attack state, whatever you want to call it. Open this up, and we're just going to add a state here. We're not going to name that. This is just going to be something we can branch off of because we can't have multiple branches coming off of the entry. That's the reason why. So we're going to create a state. We'll call this pistol. And we will call this melee. Oh, right, state and then melee. And I'm going to create a transition between these two. I'm not going to create a transition out of this because it's not really important for us to transition out of this to the main state circuit. We're going to promote this to a shared one, and we're going to call this pistol state. And the one going to pistol state from state and to pistol state from melee, we're going to set both of those to pistol state. We're going to do the same thing for the ones going from one state to melee. We're going to call this the melee state. And we're going to switch this one to melee state as well. That way we can change this in one spot and it'll automatically change in the other one. Ignore this problem I'm having with my right mouse button. I think my battery is running low on my mouse. So let's come over here, and you can make this anywhere. I'm just going to make this out here in the open. We're going to go to blueprints and enumerators, and I'm going to call this enum attack states. And I'm just going to add two here. One is going to be called pistol, and the other one is going to be called melee. Now these animations aren't perfect, guys. I just threw these together real quick for demonstration purposes. So you might think they look a little funny. They won't look quite as bad whenever we actually add them into there. So just keep that in mind. Under here, we're going to call this variable. We're going to call this variable attack. You can call this attack states. Yeah, we'll just call this well, we can't call this attack states. We'll call this attack state, and we'll call this go to Boolean, and we'll change this to a enum attack state enum. We'll save and compile this. It'll give us some warnings, but that's okay. We're going to type in a property access. Since this is a multi-threaded animation instance, we're going to use these access properties. That way we can access this in a thread-safe manner. It's not really that important to access variables like this, but I like to do it anyway because I think it's good practice. We're going to type in equal to equal enum. We just want to make sure that this one is actually a melee state. And I'm pressing Shift Q, and it'll align those for you. First one, and then the first one will be aligned to the second one selected. We're going to Control C this and go to this other one and Control V it and just change this to pistol. And press Q, and it'll align all that. And now you'll see that the other ones are set as well. Now over here on the pistol, I'm going to go into the Manny custom folder. And on the pistol one, I'm going to drag in the pistol pose. And it should automatically be set to looping. I have not set that yet. I'll set that before I package it for you guys. So it'll be set to looping. And so when we drag it out here, it'll automatically set this to looping as well. We're going to apply an additive. This will not be set up, so you'll have to set this up. You're going to have to open up the pistol fire and set this to local space and selected animation frame. And we're going to select the pistol pose as the base pose. For these states, we're going to apply things additively like normal, because it's not necessary that we apply them dynamically. These should be converted to single frame animations because they're just poses. It was these I was talking about that should be looping, and I've already set those actually. And so that's what we want. We're going to promote this to a variable, and I'm going to call it attack, and we're going to use it on both of them. And we'll just compile and save that. Let's see, that is the pistol fire, yeah. Now on this one, we're going to do the same thing, except we're going to drag in the pistol pose, convert that to a single frame animation, because it's just a single frame animation, so that'll make sure it doesn't linearly interpolate. We're going to drag this melee attack out. And this should be looping. Actually, if it's red, that means we have not set it to an additive yet. And so we can come in here and do the same thing, local space. We're using local space because it's not important that things be in mesh space, because these animations were made for these poses. So that's the reason why we can use local space safely and know that it's not going to cause any issues. Now we're going to drag this off. It should be green if it's already set up as an additive. And we're going to apply additive and local space because we set it as a local space additive. And we're going to drag this attack alpha off. And the reason why I'm not setting this as a bool, you could convert a bool to a float value, but the reason why I'm just setting it as a float is because we might actually want to linearly interpolate this later, but that's totally up to you. It's probably okay to just have it set on or off. So anyway, we got our states set up. That's pretty much it for that. And I'm sorry for the issue I'm having with my right mouse button. It's really annoying for me. We're going to right click and type in main to grab our main cache. And we only need to apply this in mesh space. Actually, I'm not going to go into setting up multiple layers. We're just going to set up like maybe 2 layers and that's it. And I'll explain to you why whenever we do. So anyway, we're going to right click on empty space and type in make dynamic, and it should pull up make dynamic additive. We're going to plug this in and select it. And we're going to say mesh space additive because we want this to be in mesh space. And now we want to apply this to our base pose. Or I mean, we want to set this up as an additive with our base pose that we made, or that was already here for you that I made. And we're going to use this as the base pose. It's a somewhat neutral pose, so there shouldn't be too many issues when we use this. It's important that you have a neutral pose whenever you're doing this, and that these attack states are created from that neutral pose. And the reason why is because whenever you apply this to it, you don't want any adverse rotational offsets. And so these should all share the same base pose. That's how they do it in ALS. Because if you do it any other way, then you'll have issues, and I'll go into those issues in another video. So we're going to cache this, and we're going to call this our mesh space. We'll just call this MS pose. And so now that we've made our, actually, let's call this mesh space additive, because that's what it is. It's a mesh space additive. So we're going to get our attacks. Yep, there you go. And we're going to get our mesh space additive. We're going to apply our mesh space additive to our attacks. In mesh space. And we're going to cache this. And I'm going to want to name this mesh space Anim. You could call it post mesh space or whatever you want to call it. Actually, post mesh space is probably more appropriate. That's pretty much it for that. So now we have to set this up, and then we need to do some other stuff, and I'll walk you through that. So let's get our post mesh space cache right here. Let's do a layered blend per bone. And we're going to copy this attacks over and plug it into the blend pose 0. And under here, we're going to add 2 members to the branch filter. Clavicle L. Oops. And clavicle R. And we'll set both of these blend depths to 3. That should cover the clavicle, the upper arm, and the lower arm. It'll probably include everything else too, the hands and the fingers, but that's okay. So we'll go ahead and apply that. Let's set our attack to 0 by default. There we go. And we want this to be in mesh space. There we go. That way he's actually pointing straight ahead like the animation intended. Now, this can cause issues during rolling animations and climbing animations and stuff. And that's the reason why in an ALS they have 2 of these. And they turn off this one, the one that uses mesh space rotation, and they turn on the other one that doesn't whenever they need to roll or something like that, which this would interfere with. So I'm not going to go into aim offsets today in this video. We'll cover all that stuff in later videos. So we're slowly working our way up to more complex systems. So just let that be known. I know some of these examples I've done in the past haven't felt very useful, but we'll get to that. So here we are. We have this. Now let's just go ahead and now I don't think I actually fixed the fingers on these animations, so I apologize in advance, because I come to think of it, for the pistol holding one, I did not know. Okay. So I apologize in advance. I didn't think of that. Maybe I'll go ahead and fix it and then update this so that y'all's will look right. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to create another layer here. And we're going to plug this layer into the base of this one. And on this layer, we're going to call the main cache here and plug that in. And I'm going to empty this out and then add 5 entries. And I'm going to expand each of these. And then under the skeletal tree, I'm going to find the left hand. And we're going to skip the metacarpals, but we're going to shift right click on these bone names and just paste them. If we do the metacarpals, it could cause issues. That's the reason why I'm skipping those. The thumb does not have a metacarpal. And we're going to uncheck mesh space rotation, and then we're just going to apply it. And so now you'll see that the fingers are respecting the idle animation, which is kind of what we wanted. So you could actually go so far as to just have the clavicle L on a separate one as well. That way you could have, whenever he's running, that way his arm would swing back and forth with the run animation whenever he's holding the pistol, since this isn't a two-handed pistol animation. But that's up to you if you want to do that. Feel free to experiment with that, because that's the point, is we're trying to learn here. So I'll leave that up to y'all to decide if you want to try that or not. It's not important that our blend depth is increased on these. I've said in the past that this blend depth represents the number of bones down the chain, but I was actually wrong. I'll be honest, I still don't even know how that actually works. So I was wrong when I said that. It appeared to be the case whenever I said that, but it apparently is not the case. Um, if you want specific control over the bones like that, you need to create a blend mask. So we'll go into blend masks. We'll start using blend masks more often in the future. Anyway, that's pretty much it for this. We're going to promote this. Actually, no, we don't need to promote that to a variable. I'll show you what we're going to do. We're going to drag out this attack state here. We're going to do a select float. Actually, let's not do that. Let's do an equal enum. And if it equals the pistol, then it'll be true, and this blend weight will be 1. And we'll just let this convert it. And I'm just going to put this here like that. You can set it up however you want. That way it'll automatically turn this off whenever we're in the melee state. So moving on, let's go ahead and create our, let's go back here and we're going to create our blueprint interface, call it BPI, attack state. Ooh, I have to be careful how I name this, I think. I think it'll be fine. We'll call it attack states. No, we'll call it Anim instance. Yeah. Now this function though, we'll call this set attack state, and then we'll create another one and we'll call this init attack as an initialize attack. Now in this one we want an input which is a float, and we'll call this attack. And on this one we want an input which is going to be an enum attack state, attack states, and we'll call this attack state. We're going to save and compile that, and we're going to go to the third person blueprint, open this up, and actually we need to do something else here. So this uses input mapping context enhanced input. We're going to duplicate this jump, and we're going to call this attack, and we're going to duplicate that, and we're going to call this attack state. And we can, I guess, leave both of these as bulls. That's fine. Now under the input mapping context, we want to come over here and create one, set it to attack, create another, set it to attack states. Now I'm not real super familiar with this, but we're going to just use the one key as the attack state, or you can choose whatever you want. I think for our attack state, let's see. I'm not familiar enough with that, so I'll just work around it. There'll be an issue here. On the attack, we're just going to use the left mouse button. So we'll call IA attack and IA attack state. And we need to switch out this mesh for the SKM Mani. And we need to add this weapon. Now I made this for the pistol, so just drag the pistol over here. And if you've switched it to the SKM Mani, not the SKM Mani Simple, then you should be able to pull up the weapon R bone. And we'll set it to that. Now it looks like I actually things were offset 90 degrees inside of Cascader, so I apologize for that. You'll just have to add a negative 90 degree rotation on the Z in order to fix that problem. And like I said, I might fix those fingers before I send this to you guys. So there's that. Now we need to actually come over here and we need to initialize this or implement this blueprint interface onto our animation blueprint. So go to the animation blueprint, go to class settings, and just select add and type in BPI and select Anim instance. And you'll notice over here under the interfaces, you have this right arrow, press it, and you'll get both of these. Double click on them and they'll be placed inside of the Anim graph. So we're going to just set this from this state. We're going to set this from this value. And if you wanted to interpolate this, you could actually create, and I'm not going to show you how, I guess I'll show you how. You would create another variable called attack smooth or something, and you would do an R, you would do an interp F interp 2, as in float interp 2, and you would set the attack smooth as the current, and you would set the attack as the target. So this would be attack smooth, this would be attack smooth, this would be attack, and then this would be your delta time X, which you could create a variable and just pop the variable in there and then set this to something like 5 or 10 or 15, and that would smooth it out. And then you could replace the attack on the Anim graph with attack smooth. So I just thought I'd point that out to you. I'm not going to do that though. I don't think it's even necessary, to be honest with you. So over here, we're going to come back up here to begin play. And right off of here, we're going to grab the mesh and we're going to get the Anim instance. And we're going to promote this to a variable and call it Anim instance ref. And then back down here, we'll get this and we'll call set attack state message. You want that message. And we'll do a select off of this. We'll move this over and do a flip-flop. And actually, I think we might want this to be on completed, not on triggered, because this might be getting triggered multiple times. I don't know. Maybe one of you guys will know. But we'll just plug both of these into here, and we'll plug is A into the index. And now, whenever it's on A, it'll choose melee, and whenever it's on B, it'll choose pistol. So over here, we're going to copy and paste this, and we're going to set, let's see, what did I call that? Init attack message. And I'm just going to plug this action value into here. So yeah, actually you might actually want that attack to be, I mean, we could do that, I guess. Let's go ahead and do it. Well, I'll see how it looks, I guess. No, I don't think it's important. You guys can do it if you want. So back over here, That's getting annoying. There's one more thing I want to do right here. And that is, I actually want to save this. I want to promote this to a variable. And you'll see why. And we're actually going to plug these into here. Oops. There we go. Now let's see. There was something I needed to do here. Oh yeah. So we're going to set the visibility based off of this. So if we have the pistol in the hand, we want it to be visible. And if not, then we want the pistol to be invisible. This isn't the proper way of doing it, but it's the easiest way for me to do this. And to make the video short, I'm trying to do this the fast way. So that's how I'm going to do it. So now let's see what I missed, because I'm sure I missed something. So you see, he's firing the pistol. And it's not 100% apparent when he's running, but it's firing. And then we can switch over to the melee mode. And we can punch. And it's kind of a funny looking punch, but I mean, you know, we got it going. And it is twisting his body a little bit. So it is kind of causing somewhat of a funkiness on the legs. You could get around that though by reducing. If we come back over here to the animation instance, we go to the anim graph, you could actually do this. Thigh L. No, let's not do that. Let's do this. So let's move this up. And we'll get the main, which is our locomotion. And this is somewhat similar to what they're doing in ALS, actually. We'll do thigh L. Oh, 1 second, my stupid monitor is pulling up something. Okay, -1. And then we'll copy and paste that and say R, -1, and pelvis. And that should fix it. We don't need this to be in mesh space. Okay. Okay, so that looks a little bit better. I'm not sure if it would help if we had it in mesh space. I don't think it would. But yeah, I guess it does kind of. I don't know. I don't think it's normal for that to be applied in mesh space, but it's up to you. I think it might cause problems if you do. So I probably personally wouldn't set that to mesh space. But that don't look nearly as bad. So there you go, guys. I hope you found this video helpful. And I apologize for the crappy animations. I just threw them together as quickly as possible. So I didn't actually test this, but you'll see that whenever we jump, uh, he's actually punching above his head whenever we're jumping. And the reason why is because that's what I was telling you about earlier. Like whenever you're doing melee rolls, or like if you're crouching or something, you actually don't want this to be in mesh space because it's going to try to somewhat respect uh, the orientation of things. And so uh, it might cause some issues like that where things look a little funny. Actually, I don't think it looks bad. Maybe I was just imagining that, but anyway. So there you go, guys. I mean, let me know what you think.